All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to UU Forum. And I'm Jeff Peckrell, part of the Human Rights Working Group that produces Forum, along with Melvin Starks and Dolores Perez Halbrin. And welcome. So after today, we have one more forum next weekend when the topic is going to be related to the homelessness crisis. We have Dr. Robert Oken coming next Sunday. He's going to speak about the mental health crises and challenges of unhoused folks. Today, we are having a presentation on the topic of climate. You know, we have so many crises in our world today, but an argument can be made that none of them are more crucial than the climate crisis. Everything else is at a lower level than that, possibly. And I'll be bringing someone up here to introduce our speaker today from 350 Bay Area. But before that, just a couple of housekeeping things. So I don't see our comment cards or question cards. I will be looking for those while she's speaking, during the presentation, so that you can ask questions. We will kind of collate those and bring them up towards the end of the talk today. A couple of other things I want to mention is that one of our dear members of the church, Wayne Shung, who is a key member of our, part of our community, really, and the Human Rights Working Group, is imprisoned for defending the rights of animals, which is a part of this climate crisis. And we're feeling sadness about this. If you're interested in helping or getting involved in that, there's going to be a letter writing vigil, I believe they're calling it, tomorrow. And maybe Dolores will share some more details about that. So yeah, that's the housekeeping. The talk will run until 10:30, and then we'll do our Q&A time and wrap up at 10:45. So Dolores, would you like to do our Loney recognition, please?
Good morning, everyone. We, the members of the First Unitarian Universalist Society of San Francisco, acknowledge that our community is located on the ancestral, unceded homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone tribes, the original inhabitants of the San Francisco Peninsula. We recognize that we benefit from living and working here, and we affirm their sovereign rights as First Peoples. The Greater Bay Area is also the ancestral territory of the Miwok, Yokuts, Patwin, and other tribes. As the original stewards of this land, the indigenous peoples understood the interconnectedness of all things and maintained harmony with nature for millennia. We honor them now for their enduring commitment to our Mother Earth. And regarding Wayne Shung, if you go online in the next couple of days, you'll see a final plan that we want to partake in and work on certain actions to help Wayne and spread his message. And it'll be on uusf.org. And it'll be on in our next flames and notices. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Dolores. And our speaker today is Laura Neish from 350 Bay Area. And now I have someone that's going to give her a proper introduction and tell you more about her. Be careful on this. It's a little tricky here.
He says I'm going to be proper, so that leaves out half my introduction. But well, let's see. I have myself been a member of 350 San Francisco, which is the San Francisco part of 350 Bay Area. Sorry. Okay, can you guys hear? Okay. Yeah, so how long have I been part of 350 San Francisco? About 15 years. And that's the San Francisco part of 350 Bay Area, which has been around, I don't know, 20, 25, long time. And since the climate was not much thought of until now, when climate justice is a kind of a central focus, and they've been growing, spreading the word, becoming, influential. Some of the really strong climate legislation that's been passed recently, 350 Bay Area has been a part of. And one of our secret weapons has been this ever patient, enthusiastic, intimidatingly knowledgeable person whom I introduce to you now as Laura Neish.
I wasn't sure who she was talking about. Thank you for coming. I'm the executive director of 350 Bay Area, proudly so. And I'm so excited to be here and talk about, this exciting project we're working on in our organization and in general. So today, very briefly, we're going to touch on where we are, provide a quick overview of our organization, and then go into depth on this exciting project. And really looking forward to that. I do want to take a minute. Thank you, Jeff. Alluded to the fact that we're living in times that are really excruciatingly painful right now. So we're going to go quickly through that part because I think we are here because we really do understand that. And it is going to be exciting and fun to talk about a real solution that is touching individual people's lives right now. So I promise you, we will get through the first part very quickly. So yes, I think most of us here are aware that we are running out of time. We see the impact of climate change already happening way faster than people were anticipating with the floods and the fires and the very severe storms and the displacement of people. Cynical minds could say that a lot of the unrest in the world has to do with the folks I refer to as oligarchs, sowing difficulty so that they can keep pulling oil out of the ground. So this is why 350 Bay Area has assembled a team of about 70 really dedicated volunteer leaders that are out there doing the work to get policies passed that reduce emissions. And this is super critical work, right? And we're getting it done. Like, we do have successes. And the really exciting thing is that the successful policies that are passed here in the Bay Area and in California get adopted not just by the United States in general, but also by the world. So we're this like think tank for stuff going on. Okay. I know this is a little distracting, but we'll get to the slides. They're not super important quite yet. But so yes, we have a lot of leverage and we have a lot of people, and we're building that people power. We reach out to our supporters that are about 25 to 30,000, depending on how you count, people who follow our work and who take action. So that is where the pressure is being applied, is from those people. And okay, look, this is looking good. All right, so all of these tremendous folks are supported by a small staff, including me, and we support them in a lot of different ways. And we are also frequently involved in leading projects and initiatives. If you can go back one slide, there you go. So it's the bad news. Everybody knows it. We are running out of time, and that's why we're here today and why we appreciate your support. Okay, so now this is a really complicated page. We have a pretty complicated organization. I'm going to walk you through it briefly. The quiz at the end is not terribly difficult. So we are two organizations. We divide ourselves that way so that we can do lobbying work and electoral work on the 350 Bay Area Action side, which is still a nonprofit, but it doesn't have tax deductible, things. So the work that we do there is we very actively lobby our state legislators to pass climate bills. And we've been really instrumental in some of the big ones. I'll just name a couple. Does everybody remember SB 100 for 100% clean energy by 2045? This was a turning point in my life. Nobody? Yeah. And then we're in the, there's plenty of them, but the other one that I think is especially exciting and kind of instructive is the drilling setbacks bill, which now we have to fight a referendum to keep. So we finally got that passed. That was, somewhere between 11 and 15 years of hard work. And one of our key volunteer leaders has a saying that we lose until we win. So sometimes we feel like the moth throwing ourselves against the light bulb, but when we win, it's glorious. And then we have recently gotten a lot more organized on the electoral side. So it's important for us to apply pressure and to elect candidates that are very climate forward, which sends a signal in a lot of different ways. And then we hold their feet to the fire to do what they said they were going to do. And that is very exciting work because it kind of closes the circle. All right, so that is the side of the lobbying electoral side, which is a little different than the typical nonprofit, which cannot do any electoral work at all and only can do a little bit of lobbying. So our shared goals as an organization that all those volunteer leaders agreed to, we're fighting for 100% clean energy, a just transportation system, clean air, and clean buildings. You know, and then in a broader framework, we're really working hard to end the fossil fuel era. We have a bunch of local groups
Right there.
all around the Bay Area, surprisingly. You can read that there. And what we focus on 350 Bay Area are those shared goals from a real policy perspective. And then we have a youth-led mobilizing team that supports that work, helps get the word out, and organizes our direct actions. If you have a chance, can you go to the next slide? If you have a chance, go to one of these direct actions. You know, certainly sign up for our emails. They are glorious and they are fun. The next slide. So the reason that we can do so much work is we have these 70 volunteer leaders who really lead it with our support. Okay, look at that. So this was at the federal office in San Francisco. And I will say that something that is common to our direct actions is this kind of a joyful and respectful approach and colorful to protesting. So typically there are a lot of young people, there's a lot of music or drums or something, and usually beautiful art, which is awesome. Okay, so we will take questions later. I think we're going to have plenty of time for that. Let's dive into this really exciting project, the fast path to clean indoor air. So I think building decarbonization, does everybody know what I mean by that? Okay, so we're just trying to get gas out of buildings, right? So we burn a bunch of stuff in our homes and we call it, well, the industry calls it clean natural gas. And you know why they call it that? Is because they know it's not true and they had to reframe it, because any sensible person is going to say, why am I burning, petroleum products in the middle of my house, creating all of these terrible emissions? So they figured that out 60 years ago, 70 years ago, whatever. And they've been pushing this for a long time. So that, and we have to stop burning methane, to your point. Methane is a more powerful climate change pusher than CO2. Like it has a profound impact on the climate. And when you burn it, it turns into CO2. That's better. But the whole pipeline leaks like crazy from out of the ground, through the pipes, into your house, in your house. Like it's a total mess and it's having an outsized impact on our climate. So we need to get that under control very quickly. But how do you like retrofit every single dwelling, right? So that's what we're working on. Other people are figuring that out. And we're moving as quickly as we can. The IRA bill is helping with that. So that's super exciting. But what I was thinking, or we were thinking, what do we do about people who are renting? And especially those people who are living already in high ambient, poor air quality conditions. It's just going to be forever. And then if their buildings get retrofitted, what happens then? Their rent gets jacked up. So this was bothering me. I was like, wow, what are we going to do? So I was talking to some other people. So we came up with, how can we quickly solve the problem? And we actually have the answer. So next slide. So air pollution is a very serious issue in California and in the Bay Area. there are high impacts from particulate matter pollution and nitrous oxides. And we don't talk about this enough, 3,000 people a year die in the Bay Area alone from the impact of this pollution. And then every year there's over 5,000 new asthma cases among children. Like, this is an expensive and has a huge impact on our population. So, and then of course, this pollution is concentrated in low income areas and especially in communities of color. So it's like injustice on top of injustice. So death rates up to 30 times higher. 30 times higher. And doubled childhood asthma rates. So the long-term solutions are not meeting the immediate demands. So here it is. We have provided 30 low-income households in San Mateo County in impacted communities with portable heat pumps and air purifiers. And we're also supporting them. We've had people install them, professionals install them. They can be used for both cooling and heating. And we're providing filters and maintenance. And also we're giving them stipends to just in case there are extra costs for their energy use. So this will improve their health. The tenants themselves are going to own the equipment. We're hoping that it significantly reduces the use of fossil gas in their homes for heating. That is a real education process because they view this equipment as being an air conditioner. So we got to teach them that it can also heat. And that sounds super simple. It is not. It's also fast, affordable, and scalable. Next slide. So we're doing this on a study basis for a couple of different reasons. We want to see if this really is kind of worth the cost. It's really what it comes down to. Is this a solution that'll work? Does it make a difference? We are monitoring, and we get it automatically from the cloud, the indoor air quality. And we also wanted to know if people can stay in their homes during a high smoke event. And I am not proud to tell you that when we had a little bit of a high smoke event in the area, it was like, oh, good. Oh, wait. Oh, my gosh. How do I think about this? So it was just bad enough that we could really see just a stark difference between the outdoor air quality and the indoor air quality for our participants. And then we want to know if we can have natural gas use reduced. And then we need to track whether their energy costs go up or down, because that's super important for low-income communities that are already struggling to pay these bills. And then we have to think about, and we are thinking about, the ongoing costs of filters and maintenance. So yeah, we were just trying to answer all these questions so that we can put together a recommended policy, match that with funding from the IRA that is going to cities and counties, and then put together a real policy proposals in our communities. And that's where our local groups come in, because we'll bring them up to speed, and they will literally go meet with their city councilors and their county supervisors and say, here, for a very cheap amount of money, you can improve these people's lives tomorrow. Like, it's not hard. Okay, so what are we learning? We're about halfway through the project. These heat pumps work. They're amazing. You plug them in to just a regular outlet. And the person who was doing the installations, a couple of days were kind of warm. Not that warm outside, but inside these dwellings, it was already like disproportionately hot. So, and you know, he had just schlepped in a 70-pound, not really very portable heat pump into a unit. So he was hot. So he turned it on while he was installing, you know, doing the window interface. And it just, boom, it was so quick, because these are not huge dwellings. So as I alluded to, they are big, monstrous. They're 70 pounds. And I got them in my car, because that was what I was part of what I was doing. And I could do it, but I could not have gotten them upstairs. And you would think that when you get 30 people together, that maybe some of those units would be on the first floor. One. So you can't, and people without equipment, you know, a dolly and straps, they can't get them up the stairs. Okay, so that's a lot. And there's a really crummy window interface. Like we use two different models. You can see it. It's that the little silver guy with all the tubing. So that's kind of what it looks like. That is a portable heat pump right there. We had one of our participants say, "This is the ugliest thing I've ever seen. Get it out of my house." We've had a couple people move. Neither of them have taken it with them. So, well, that's interesting, right? So it's like they're not as portable as one would like. And then luckily, one of our study participants actually has relationships with the manufacturers of these kinds of equipment and is pushing them on design and has successfully pushed them with design so far. So we somehow managed to assemble this like fabulous team, which I'll talk about in a minute. But we are going to have input on the design of these to help make them work. And that's the other one is a little picture of the one of the air purifiers we're putting in people's homes. So the other reason that it makes sense to have somebody go in who's a professional to install them, like a handy person or something like that, is that a lot of these households are very plug constrained. Their dwellings are not up to code, and there are a lot of people in a small space. So you have like these like total rat's nests of things plugged in every which way. So which you plugging something in that has a high draw that you're going to use a lot has to have its own outlet. So there has to be some education there. So this is not something we can dump on people's doorsteps, even if we get it up the stairs. All right. There needs to be a level of education about these things if they're going to be used correctly. And I know that it sounds like I'm being condescending, and I'm not. I put in a heat pump system in my house, and it took me a long time to figure out how to use it. I really could have benefited from somebody giving me some pointers, even though I was looking for them. So just to say, we were really excited about, being a climate change organization. This can easily replace a wall heater. And I was in 4 different households where I had enough translation services sort of at my fingertips to say, you won't have to use your wall heater anymore. So it was like, this is anecdotal, right? So in every single one of those households, to my dismay, they said, we never use the wall heater. People do not trust them. So it's going to be interesting to see. We will know, we're going to collect the PG&E data, so we'll know exactly what the impact is. There's a lot of trust building required to do a study because we have to collect a lot of data. Whoops. And so in terms of moving forward, we have identified that in order to get this equipment effectively distributed and installed, we are going to need to work with local community groups. I'll talk more about that later. And then there's some study bumps. People don't keep their air quality monitors plugged in. And some people, they don't show up for appointments because they're busy. There's a bunch of conflicts. Okay. So we are pushed by our major funder, which is the Energy Commission's tech grant funding. It's a little bit of too much detail, but I think that there are 2 different paths that we really need to push on. And one is we need to support the low income communities and get this equipment into their hands as quickly as possible, which is get the equipment, either the portable heat pumps or swamp coolers, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And then we have to find an air purifying solution that has inexpensive and super accessible air filters. So we chose some that studies like these tend to do, and replacing the filters is $40 to $50. Like, oh my God. And you have to go onto a website, it's just ridiculous. It was the right decision at the time for a whole lot of study design reasons. But, we're going to have to figure out how to provide funding for the community groups so that people can get these air filters. And they're great. So it's probably only once a year that they'll need them because they're super efficient. But anyway, and then we have to figure out what the energy cost implications are. So none of these things draw a whole lot of power. So I'm not tragically worried about it, but if they're not offsetting methane use, then then their electric bills are going to go up. So I don't know what that looks like. But we fight for affordable energy throughout our organization. But our clean energy team is super focused on that. Okay, and then in terms of fuel switching towards heat pumps, this is really like getting the word out about the IRA monies that are available and educating consumers in general and getting the people who can afford it to do it. And I think that for some spaces, this portable heat pump technology is just a quick and dirty way, for the next 10 years or so to address different areas and reduce your methane use. And you can ask me about that later. And then another one we're maybe working on the legislative side is we're thinking about, haven't decided this yet, don't hold us to it quite yet, sponsoring a bill that requires all AC units to also provide heat. And I can talk about the super detailed parts of that later. Okay, so this is the fun part. So here's the stories from the field. So, being out there in the world, helping get this equipment into people's hands, meeting a whole lot of super delightful people. I will say that people have expressed joy at the immediate relief of having a cool space in their house. And that is very heartfelt. So this is where I get to tell you about my friend Maria. And we would be friends, except I don't speak English well enough. So while we were installing the equipment, I was having all the households sign something that in Spanish that they understood that in exchange for the equipment and the stipends, that they would help provide the data for the study, and really thanking them for being part of this, which will ultimately result in other people like them quickly getting this equipment. So Maria started acting kind of weird when I handed her paper. And there's a lot going on these installations. It sounds so simple, and it really just wasn't. So there's like all these things going on. And I was like, okay, so stop. And I got one of the people that was with me that was bilingual. And she said, I can't read. She can't read in Spanish. She can't read in English. And I suspect that this was true for a fair number of people who responded in that kind of funny way. And then everybody, we just stopped and was like, okay, okay. And then she told her story. And she said she was from a small town in Mexico, and she was the oldest child, and they didn't have a school in her little village. And to go to school, she'd have to walk like an hour and a half each way. Some reason, and they just wouldn't let her do that because she needed to support the rest of the kids and the family and stuff like that. And so she never learned to read. And then, so I said, I can't imagine the courage under your circumstances of somebody who comes from that and then comes to the United States. Like, that seemed to me to be overwhelmingly brave. And I expressed that to her. And, then we moved on. We don't dwell on this, this stuff. So then I hear, that was on a Saturday, and I hear on Monday, Aurelio from the community organization, El Concilio of San Mateo County, he called me up and he said, we're catching up. And he said, well, Maria called. She's so excited about this equipment. It's really working. She loves it. And he said, and she offered to make tamales and bring them over. And I'm like, immediately my head goes, how do I get in on this tamale action? This sounds amazing. And then he said, of course I turned her down because I know how busy she is. I was like, okay. But anyway, I'm in Santa Rosa. San Mateo is a long ways away. But this is how lovely Maria is, right? She's like, oh, this is so great. I'm busy, but I'll make you some tamales, which I thought was just a lovely affection exchange between her and this group. So anyway, so I get done at this household and I get into my brand new ID4, which is an electric vehicle from Volkswagen. And I am sitting in my car and I'm just going, I woke up as a child, like many of you, walked out my door, maybe a block away, big yellow school bus picked me up. That ended after Proposition 13, but whatever. And if I hadn't gone to school, the authorities would have been knocking on my parents' door. So it was a very humbling experience to think about how privileged we are and how this woman who is so brave has ended up, many miles away from where she started to give her children and grandchildren a better start in life. And I just think she's the bomb. So you can tell when you're out in the world doing this work where our safety net seems to work better than it doesn't. And you can also guess that for people who are here without documentation, I think that they're really taken advantage of and almost abused by the landlords. So I had this sense of like rage, honestly, like, can I punch them? Like, is that legal? Like, whatever. How can we take action against these folks? But if you do that, then you unhouse these people. So it's just really such a painful situation. And also kind of helps us feel sort of particularly good about like really being part of the solution, and have a heck of a lot of respect for community organizations like El Concilio, who are directly helping people who are just, trying to get out of this terrible situation. So I included a couple pictures here of where the landlords are clearly not. Those are two different locations where they're just not taking care of the properties. And then I showed you this picture of this huge box that has to like get up the stairs to do that. And I already talked about the wall furnace issue. So next slide. A couple kind of random things here. So I wanted also to say that the picture on the left is a delightful little 70s built place where another lovely human, also named Maria, lives. And I'm not making that up. But and she was just the sweetest and spoke English pretty well. So we really bonded. We were trading pictures of kids and I don't have grandkids, but I got to see her grandkids and hear her story. And she was fabulous. And this is a lovely little community. But she lives on the second floor, and she said when it's like, high 80s, low 90s, it gets quickly to be 110 in her place. She can't stay there, and she certainly can't sleep there. So she's super happy. All right. And then the picture on the right is a picture, like, I'm such a good photographer. It's a picture of a swamp cooler. Does everybody know what a swamp cooler is? Okay, so the woman I told you about is like, get this out of my house. It's way too ugly. When I walked in to pick up some equipment from her, we didn't take it all back. She kept her air purifiers because her son has asthma, and she said it was a lot better with the air purifier. So we weren't trying to be mean. I said, I expected to see like a window AC unit. And she said, no. And she pointed to this equipment, which I thought was like a heater. And she said, that's a swamp cooler. And she raved about it. She says, it's not going to make it frigid in here, but it makes it's enough. It's enough. So that's 70 pounds. She said, you can put an ice pack. You can load it with an ice pack if it's particularly hot. And so swamp cooler just blows air over water. Super simple technology. Doesn't weigh a thing, and it costs $70. So from a policy perspective, this could be like open the doors to, really being super helpful in a super, super quick fashion. All right, that is it. Thank you so much for having us. I'm, obviously a big fan of our organization because of the people that work on things. I get paid to do the work. They don't. We have a small staff, about 3 full-time people and 3 part-time people, and they're also amazing. And that's it.
People have questions.
I hope you have questions. You can ask me anything.
Thank you. What about our outdoor air in Richmond? Where is issues standing? Sorry, I was having a little trouble reading this. It's concerning the refinery in Richmond and the ambient air pollution there. Is 350 Bay Area active in trying to fight that problem?
Yes, and we do that in a lot of different ways, not just through state legislation, but we're super active at the Air Resources Board and at the Regional Bay Area Air Quality Management District. So that was another one of our big wins. Like at the Air District, we had fought for years and years and years to get higher standards for the air scrubbers at the refineries. And we we did win that.
I had a question concerning the study. So were the folks that received those portable units using other forms of air conditioning before? They didn't have any, and did it save them money on their? They're running those on electricity. They're plugged into the wall, right? So,
Right.
As an alternative to using fossil fuel,
No, they weren't using it. They had nothing.
they had nothing.
Let me just tell you, they have nothing. I mean, these are people that are scraping by. So that was the least of it. And they are very concerned about their electric bills. Stay tuned on the electric bills because we're collecting the PG&E data at the end of the study, and we will be able to make some estimates. We're also, this is way in the details, but each of these, the heat pump and the air purifiers have energy monitors connected to them individually. The energy monitors are kind of clunky. I have no idea because of this plug situation. My suspicion is that the energy monitors have been stuck in a drawer, but we'll see.
Thank you. We are trying to electrify, but PG&E won't help us get the electricity our old house needs. PG&E is recalcitrant in San Francisco. Do you have any thoughts on PG&E and working with them?
I have so many thoughts on PG&E. They're not helping. They are trying. They're like generously, they're stuck in old ways. So we're working on that. Ungenerously, they only want to do the stuff that makes them money. But whatever. San Francisco's hard. We recognize that. I cannot recommend enough. Remember this or write it down. Quit Carbon. Google it. It's an organization that is getting paid by other programs to help individuals figure out a plan to get to decarbonize their house, including all the electric panel stuff, which is complicated. And they basically do all the work and present you the plan. Although you do have to send them pictures of your panels and tell them, whatever. So it's totally worth it. They are paid to do it, not by you. And they are connecting each individual and their plan to the money available. And the way that the money is being parceled out in the IRA, there's a max per year, so they're going to help you figure all that out. Like, I tried to figure it out on my own. I'm very motivated, reasonably smart, and it's hard and complicated, and you're like in this bureaucratic morass. So Quit Carbon. So you just Google Quit Carbon, get gas out of my house, or something like that. That's also the Quit Carbon people will come and talk to you in a heartbeat. So
Quit Carbon will do like an evaluation on your property to see what a heat pump solution would look like for you.
You send them pictures, they do not show up.
Okay, thank you.
But still, it's amazing.
Sounds like a great place to start.
It's a great place to start.
Are there heat pumps and coolers that go outside a window?
Yes. Okay, so how much detail do you want? In a more sophisticated house-wide replacement for your filter, there's a couple of different approaches, but let me talk about the mini split approach, which is, actually you have a drop-in approach. So the condenser, like an air conditioner, the condenser goes outside of the house. And then the air handlers or the blowers are the inside of the house. Okay, so that's one way. And I have a mini split system because I don't have any central ducting, but if you have central ducting, it can plunk into there. That's really expensive. So one of the technologies that I alluded to so Redwood Energy, one of the principles of that organization is the person I was telling you about who has direct relationships with the manufacturers because they made that happen and they're just amazing. And so they were very involved in a new approach, which is called a saddlebag system, where it just hops into your up and down window. I forget what those are called. I always forget what those are called. So if you have an up and down window, you can just plop this thing in, and the noisy air compressor is out here and the air handler is in here. Right now, super expensive. So we have talked a lot about design characteristics that would work better for this. Does that answer your question?
I believe so. So that is a one that will go outside the window then, right?
Yeah, and it hangs below the window, so it's a lot less intrusive than trying to, the hose system for the portable ones is just so clunky right now, and it's like the manufacturers aren't even trying. It's hard to it's hard to install because it's rickety. You need like 4 or 5 hands to hold this while you do this, and anyway, it's horrible.
This is not a question, but sort of a testimonial. We put a heat pump system in last year and ended use of gas heating. I was shocked at how well the system works. The house heats faster and doesn't cause skin problems that we used to have with gas heating, which dries the air. I highly recommend that technology. Great. Someone asked, would a small nonprofit workspace be amenable as a test? I guess they mean being a part of the program or the study that you mentioned. Is the study open to new participants?
No.
What are the criteria? Okay.
Sorry. This is not our sweet spot. I was talking to our funder, and he was talking about that. It was like, we just can't be involved in installing heat pumps anymore, because it's way harder than it sounds. But what we're trying to do is get money directed to people to do that. And these heat pumps are like, maybe this time of year they might be on sale. So we use 2 different brands. You can talk to me later, but you could probably get one for $600 or $700. Like if you have like you said, a small office space. Actually, for El Concilio, we gave them a heat pump because they had exactly that circumstance, but they're not part of the study.
After the indoor air study is completed, what's next in the indoor air area? I guess that's the question, is like, what is 350 Bay Area going to do next with
right.
with the data collected from the study?
Oh, we're going to create these policies and get them passed. And then we're going to find, we're only going to do that where we know that there are effective community groups kind of ready to go. Because because that'll smooth the path. So we're just going to work really, really hard to get this broadly adopted. And I will say, and I get really excited about this, the PUC has another program that's called, oddly, Cal EPA. So that's confusing, right? Because it's not the EP, whatever it is. But anyway, so they're looking for a program to put a bunch of money into to help electrify and all that stuff. So they were asking for ideas, and I was like, wow, do I have an idea for you? Like, plop that into the mix. And we were one of the ones chosen that they're really going to look into. So I'm going to work with them, because that might be another really big pool of money where we can get this to happen very quickly. So excited.
Thank you. Melissa, are more questions concerning the study that I can collect up and read up here? We'll kind of move into other related things in the climate sphere, which 350 Bay Area is widely active in. I have a question here, is asking, what does 350's stance on veganism as a part of the solution?
Yeah, be a vegan. We don't shake our fingers at people. I think that wholeheartedly, I am mostly a vegetarian. I think cheese and I have a really deep relationship. So, but we definitely encourage that. So when we have meetings and such, we are primarily vegan. If people would just eat less meat. But did you know that, like everything else, there's a relatively small group of people who eat just enormous amounts of meat. So I'm sure everybody here is kind of backing off of that. But when you start telling people what to do in that finger shaking way, I don't think it's that useful. I also think that the more people get exposed to non-meat meals, like I sometimes literally forget about eating, like it's not on my shopping list. So, and I don't miss it because food is there's so many options. Food is so flavorful. I tried to be a strict vegan back in the 90s, and the options were so limited, and it made me sick. Like I couldn't get enough good food. But anyway, long story, because I didn't have time. I was working. I didn't have time to do all of the things.
So 350 has no policy point on that exactly. Not really. Okay.
I don't, yeah.
Yeah. Could you talk about some of the things that 350 Bay Area does that are things for people to get involved in? Like, I know, for example, yesterday there was a demonstration where they're trying to put in a giant gas station up in Novato. Could you talk about that action and like similar things that people who are available and interested could plug in and get involved?
Yeah, so definitely sign up for our website. Because then you'll know about these fun actions. So we had Costco's putting in like a 28 pump gas station. Well, they were trying to in Novato, right on the marshlands. There's so much finger waving or hand waving about it. Gas use in Marin, fuel for vehicles in Marin is going down. Demand for that is going down. So it doesn't make sense to foul a marshland area for really short term. Like it's so frustrating. But anyway, so yeah, so we do things like that every once in a while. There's no violence in our campaigns. Every once in a while, we do have actions where we will block a door, so we're not throwing things at people or art or anything like that. So yeah, stay in touch with that. But we also have, if we need writers, people who are interested in helping with communications on both sides, we have a letter writing team that Bic's going to sign up for. That is encouraging. And that can be fun because it's not, we try to do that in community on Zoom. So, and then we can bring people up to speed. That's a really nice, gentle way to get up to speed with some of the key issues that are going on. We have a lot of, if you're really wanting to dig in a little, well, kind of a lot more, we've got the electoral work. It's a great team. You can sort of keep track of what's going on in San Francisco and help work on that. You can work with 350 San Francisco, which really focuses on local issues. And it's a really great, dynamic, lovely team. Just so excited about the work that they're doing. In fact, Sarah's going to talk about something specific, which is as simple as signing a petition. Yeah, just send me an email, Laura@350bayarea.org, or you can just go on our website and all of the, click contact us. That's info@350bayarea. That's me. It's like Nan and I get them. So.
One more question. When major upgrades are done to homes and apartments, there are requirements for fire protection upgrades. What clean energy requirements are there, like solar panels, heat pumps, et cetera, for new construction and major upgrades in San Francisco? Are there efforts being made in that area?
Well, there was legislation passed that all new construction needs solar panels, and unless there's some fine print there. But yeah, I mean, you do a major upgrade, you got to put a solar panel on. We are working hard to get local ordinances passed that all new construction has to be all electric. That has met with some opposition, not surprisingly. And, so we're working through some legal issues there. But the air district, for example, just our local air district passed this breakthrough rule that targeted nitrous oxides emissions for hot water heaters and furnaces, which means you have to electrify. So I think there are ways to get at that from a human health kind of a position. So, and just speaking of human health, the amount of damage that has been done to us for decades or, hundreds of years, really, from burning coal and other fossil fuels, in our cars and all of it. I mean, people really millions of people die a year from the impacts of that. And the fossil fuel industry has done a great job just ignoring it or getting us to ignore it. So it really is a justice issue everywhere.
What is the biggest source of air pollution? I guess the question would be both indoor and outdoor, right? Do you have any data on that?
What kind of air pollution?
Well, I guess like indoor pollution, like what's the biggest source of indoor air pollution? It's not
burning
only
things inside your house.
burning things inside the house.
Yeah. So public health, two things that I've learned so profoundly here, but if you have a gas range, run your fan, make sure your fan is venting to the outside. If it's not, open a window. That stuff's terrible. I mean, it's got all of it, benzene and formaldehyde and the particulate matter and all of it. It's not healthy. If you have any underlying health conditions, will make it worse. On a high smoke day, suck it up and wear a mask. I think most people here are pretty comfortable with masks. But when we have the smoke from these fires is deadly. It's just really deadly. So wear a mask. And then when you're inside, running your purifier. And then a kind of another project that we work on pretty aggressively is using buying equipment and getting people to communities to participate in building their own box fan air filters, where you just get a 24 by 24 HEPA furnace filter and you attach it to a box fan. And there's some fancifying stuff that makes it marginally more efficient. But you know what? Tape a box fan and a filter. And that's what I use on a high smoke day in my house. So, you know, because when there's so much that your little room air conditioners or air purifiers can't do anything. So we also do that, but yeah, take care of your health. Spread the word.
What about indoor, those decorative gas fireplaces? Do they vent, or would you recommend people stop using those as well?
I would, but yes, of course they vent. Yeah,
They
those
do
are
vent.
dangerous as hell if they don't. So yeah, I'm just thinking of a funny story. My daughter called me the other night and said, "What do I do when my carbon monoxide alarm goes off?" Just like, oh, I don't know. Lay down, take a nap, like crazy girl. Yeah, they do throw off some heat, and they're better than wood burning fireplaces. And you know, people love their little gas fireplaces. I don't have one. I don't use one. Use it less. I hate to tell people what to do in their own homes, unless it has to do with their health. But those are not a major health risk, just a climate risk.
Meg is sharing about something like a similar study to the one that was done here. Gradient.com, New York Housing Authority is buying 10,000 units for low-income renters.
Those are the saddlebag ones.
Made in San Francisco, huh?
Oh, I did not know that. That is awesome. Yeah. Good. Gradient's so expensive right now, but costs will come down.
I think we may be out of questions. So
Good. Well, you can catch me later. And whoa, just one more second. Here we go. You're going to talk about this, right? So there's a local, I'm going to get this all mixed up. So thank you. I was going to do a hatchet job on what's going on here.
Okay, so short story is the city, according to the mayor and some other people, they're going to build a great deal of affordable housing. There will be a bond measure in March. There'll be a bond measure in March, probably. And one part of this, 1/10 of the money will go to finding units, housing unit, apartment, whatever, that already exist. And maybe they need rehabilitation, or the city's just going to buy them and turn them into affordable housing. So in those cases, they are not absolutely required to make them all electric yet. 2035, it'll be a different story when those things, whatever the beat up old oil or gas, whatever beat up old gas heater they've got, they're going to have to replace it with electric. So if they go in and they rehab and they renovate and that kind of thing now, you're going to have to go back, unrehab, unrenovate, and put in the electric, right? So waste of money. Plus, in the interim, which, how these things take a while, those children in those houses, and these are, lower income children who tend to have health burdens anyway, they're going to be getting childhood asthma from that gas heater, right? At a not everybody, but at an advanced rate. If you're my age, you probably remember or were kids growing up with asthma, and how, the kid can't play like the other kids, So this is a big damage. And as a result, we have a petition, and all it says is that when they do a rehab or a new unit, acquired, it must be all electric. Do it now. So I will pass the petition around. Yeah, and this is a 350 San Francisco local effort.
Well, that concludes our presentation for today. I really want to thank Laura. Give her a round of applause, please. Yes, climate justice is a social justice issue, and it's great to see organizations like 350 trying to put these solutions into the hand of financially disadvantaged people. So that's great. I mentioned at the beginning that we are back next Sunday. We have a talk by Dr. Robert Oken, former head of psychiatry at San Francisco General and at UCSF, talking about mental health challenges faced by unhoused people. So that should be a good talk. And after that, we will take a break from Forum until January 21st, when we'll be back with a topic relating to immigration, Dr. Bill Hing. So thank you all so much for coming today, and we'll hopefully see you next Sunday.